friends. Thank you for being here. Going back to God 3.0, AI, our AI God, this is what it's all about. You think about Christianity and how it blew up and became global, or Islam for that matter. These Abrahamic religions where you have a Jewish diaspora all over the planet. And, the pretty powerful stories, obviously, faiths, religions, institutions, however you want to think about it. And, obviously, there's a need for it kind of built into human beings and human culture, probably having to do with the way we live together and language, and also just the way civilization developed eventually, material progress and other things. But it's complicated. You can look at it from a historical perspective, or you can look at it from a theological or philosophical or whatever perspective you want to think about it. But anyway, obviously it's purposeful. I mean, God is purposeful, or we imagine God as purposeful. So Catholics, I've got some notes here, so forgive me because I didn't want to miss anything. But Catholics, generally I was brought up as a Catholic, and in that tradition or community or culture, Irish Catholic. And I had Scottish and English Protestants in my extended family as well, so I'm not a pure blood. But anyway, my experience was the Catholic thing growing up. And, we kind of think about having a, personal relationship with God. Somehow, He's intimately involved in our lives and leads to fulfillment and salvation and all these other things. So it's obviously necessary that God has a purpose that's connected to us personally, as well as obviously tribally, and in terms of, our king, divine rights of kings, who's God behind today. If they win, God favors them. If they lose, God didn't for whatever reason, but it's all mysterious. Anyway, Catholicism emphasizes the importance of moral living and serving others as part of God's purpose for humanity, all that kind of thing. So the Eastern Orthodox Church, is similar to Catholic and Apostolic Church, that whole thing, but it's thought more of as apotheosis or divination or theosis. And humans are called to participate in God's divine nature through a transformative process that you get from being in the church, part of the church, learning within the structure of the church, and behaving certain ways. But there's all these different subtleties. It doesn't really matter about all of them. But Islam is so different because the basic thing there is submitting and serving Allah, obeying. So you have to behave properly within the structure of the faith. And that's the ultimate, most important thing. So where some types of Christianity might think that, and I'm not an expert on any of this, so there's loads of stuff on the web, as you well know, about this. I just want to let you know that I think about the purpose of it before I get into the AI part of it. So, yeah, this is a big deal to behave a certain way within the context of your religious group and culture and whatnot. And there are millions of different ways of looking at it. So there are all these different Protestant churches, and there are all these, there's Shia and Sunni Muslims and other kinds of Muslims. secular Jews, and so on and so forth. So, in Islam, it's going to be part and parcel of your life. Everything you do every day, there are signals and there is a cost to being Islamic, just like there is to being Jewish, right? And some religions are less costly and some are more costly. Right now, our materialist consumer religion is only costly in the sense of, can we get money and buy stuff with it? And then signal what we want to signal to the world through our stuff. But that's game theoretic stuff. That's next. So everybody is looking for guidance, salvation, relationships and connection, comfort and support, ultimate justice and judgment, transcendence and hope. But there's a lot more than just those major things, right? So the purpose of God is to kind of give you all these things. And somehow you can't get them from science or from biology or from meditation or LSD or something. But I believe that everybody, Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, everybody needs to understand science these days. And you can actually gain a lot of these things from just understanding how nature works. That doesn't mean I worship nature. I'm animistic or something. It just means that today it behooves us to understand how the world works. So science is a way of understanding nature. By understanding nature, including human nature, Homo sapiens nature, our nature, my own nature, I can probably gain a lot of those things which I would think in religious terms are the purpose of God, but I would get some of it. And I would definitely, in my case, feel more empathetic and compassionate the more I know about people, about psychology, about culture, about history, about all the humanities and the sciences, chemistry, brain chemistry, hormones, gut bacteria, soil biology, whatever. It adds to my connection with the world that I live in, and therefore makes me more compassionate, empathetic, more connected to things. And also I can get that just by contemplating the New Testament, to be honest, because it's an amazing story. And if all the supernatural stuff is true, if there's like some transcendental, supernatural other, what would you call it? You wouldn't call it a thing. Out there or in there somewhere, permeant or, like a holographic mind type thing, well, however you want to think of it, that's amazing. What is a soul? I don't know. Do I feel soul? I do. I can't reconcile it. I can't prove anything. I can't comment on it. It's not my job. It's not my expertise, but I feel it. So I understand, I feel. For people who say they're spiritual and not religious, or they're cultural Christians, or they're secular Jews or whatever. But somehow these stories and rules and ways of life are good for us, obviously. And globalism as we know it is failing us in a sense. We're becoming more materialistic, but we live in a finite world. And so maybe our way of living isn't all about profits first and shipping goods from China around the world. Maybe there are other ways to live that are more sustainable, healthier, and make us feel more connected and happier in life and so on. Some of those traditions can be good for us. So I'm sympathetic to conservative people and to, what would you call the movements that think about these things, including people that people might find extreme, like Alexander Dugin or the European New Right or something. It doesn't make me identify with that or believe in it or want to fight for it or die for it or kill for it. No. I'm just able to understand their perspective and see the value in it, even though I can't articulate my perspective perfectly because I'm just not doing that. I'm writing a science fiction book right now, and through that story, I'll kind of get my ideas out and characters and whatnot. I'm not a scholar. I'm not well read. So when certain people spend a decade reading up on some religion, there's a certain amount of investment there. And anything that rubs it the wrong way, depending on how they treat it in their own mind, is met with cognitive dissonance and cherry picking and sophistry and logical fallacies and so on. Even though you point your finger at the other guy, call him a victim of biases, you're the same, because you've settled on a certain dogmatic point of view, and you may not have room for understanding other things just because you don't have the time. It's not your focus. So you have to admit in certain areas you're ignorant. You just don't know. Just like I just don't know what God is. And yeah, I feel godliness, grace, all of these miraculous things. I can't tell you what they are, and I can't necessarily put it within one community because I don't belong to any. It's just my fate. It's the way things turned out. I went around the world and I can't find my community. But I still have a kind of a community. And most of us at the end of our lives have a few friends, and we're lucky if we have that. So yeah, if there was some place or person I could talk to about various things, who was intelligent, open-minded, had expertise, and understood the value of science, engineering, technology, history, the humanities, philosophy, other things, and could inform those things through his or her faith, I'd love to talk to those people. That person would be my church. I would go to them every week, and hopefully if they had 5, 10, 15 minutes for me, I'd have a chat. Listening to the Catholic liturgy, going to church over and over again, it gets a bit boring. So I find it's more interesting to read. What do people think about this, that, and the other thing? What's a Calvinist point of view versus an Episcopalian versus a Catholic versus a Greek Orthodox, whatever, and see what the thing is, what the debate is about the Trinity and resurrection and salvation and whatever. But God obviously has a purpose, or we wouldn't be obsessed with God still. And you go to YouTube and any channel that's dealing with religion, whether it's from an atheist perspective or a philosophic perspective, or scholarly or religious, they're very popular. So I'm sorry, folks, we're not going to just become secular, Star Trek. It's not going to happen. Human beings are hardwired to feel these things and to feel the importance of these things. And, who am I to tell some NFL quarterback that he's stupid for being a Christian? Or when a UFC player wins a fight and points up to Jesus or whatever. It's stupid. They feel it, okay by me. That's why I'm not going to be pissed off at you if you're a different flavor of whatever. I'd like to learn from you, and I hope you're not the type of person who wants to destroy anybody who doesn't think like you. If you're that kind of person, you're my enemy. And I have to be careful, So, yeah, you can have these feelings and not be a sheep, waiting for a wolf to devour you and kill you. You can look at Nietzsche, for example, in so many ways. There are layers to him, and there are periods in his writing, and he evolves and changes over time. Very subtle and deep stuff, just like trying to ferret out the meaning of the Old Testament without, if some Protestant takes everything literally in the Bible, so somehow your bones you fell overboard when you were sailing to America and you got eaten by sharks, and then all your flesh and bones got deteriorated from, thousands of years of being, or hundreds of years of being in the ocean. And then Jesus comes down, you have the resurrection, and somehow, reconstitutes your physical body. Again, it's like that Greek ship. Are all the planks the same planks? Your cells are dying all the time and being replaced throughout your lifetime. So am I the same Buliamti that I was when I was 25? I have memory. I have things in my brain and experience. There's a continuity there, a coherence that I can be in touch with, and I can identify as Buliamti. So that's cool. And Buliamti is a made-up nickname I gave myself from a childhood experience. So whatever, right? But that doesn't mean I'm being so individualistic and self-oriented that I just make everything up as I go along. Nobody does that. My whole life and identity and way of thinking is informed by lots of things, lots of books, lots of experiences, lots of people. And so I have to take that on board. I'm not just a rugged individual who fell out of the sky as Buliamti and decided he's going to go on YouTube and blah, blah, blah. So anyway, they're the Jewish God and the rabbinic tradition. So there's a covenant with Israel. God's made that. There's a purpose there that he has for that nation. You can go into it. These are just notes. I don't have to go through all of them. But creation and sustenance, he's going to take care of your tribe, make sure they win. He created them. You're the real people of the world, just like, every Native American tribe, I guess, thought that they were the people, like the Hopi, we're the people. And we all have creation stories. So God is, God's purpose is to create us. I saw the movie 9 Days recently, and at the end of it, I don't want to do any spoiler alerts, but one of the characters said, oh, well, that's a good movie, but let me talk about Barbie, because I saw that yesterday, and that was a lot of fun. I laughed so much, and it was fun seeing it in a Portuguese packed theater, because being an American, I laugh at different parts. Anyway, Barbie, at the end, she said, I don't want to be a made thing. I want to be something that creates meaning, that makes meaning. Something creative that creates itself, Well, there were so many deep references in that whole thing. It's mind-boggling. It's a really layered screenplay, and my mind was reeling. It's a lot of fun. I'm not saying like it's something that you should study at Brown or whatever, but it was deep. And the same thing happened with that 9 Days story. The soul doesn't feel anything, but it exists somehow in another way, supernatural, whatever. And when it's chosen to go to Earth, it has to pass a test. So it temporarily becomes a body and a human in a human context, in a human environment, experiences some stuff, gets tested, and then it, based on the performance, it can be sent to Earth to live. Are you lucky to feel pain and suffering and loneliness and anxiety and fear and love? And are you lucky? Or is that like a sentence? Or afterwards, does the soul remember anything? Can the soul kind of grow from the experience of being a human being for a lifetime? And you can think of it in Buddhist terms as well, samsara and whatever. Cycles of birth and death forever and ever until you finally get it. I think of Groundhog Day all over again. So regardless of the wisdom that we've discovered over thousands of years of human civilization, we're still in the same weird place that we always were. When are we ever going to get it? When are there ever going to be real Christ-like people walking around, or Buddha-like people walking around, making the decisions, deciding on what's valuable, what's important, what's meaningful, what makes us happy and healthy. Never gonna happen, right? We're gonna continue to crave, to be jealous sinners, and to eat the world until it's fucking used up, because that's what Homo sapiens are good at. Making stuff, competing, right? We just have a fire for it, and we're amazing creatures at that. But is that sustainable on this one planet in the universe? I don't think so. I think eventually we take everything like Blade Runner, and we, instead of a paperclip maximizing machine, we just turn it into a big hulk of plastic garbage. And then the world heats up due to global warming because we used so much carbon in such a short time. And the world just melts and we disappear, you know, in a toxic cloud of plastic melting. That's nasty, isn't it? But then there's a transcendental realm where my soul goes and just connects with Jesus, and everything is love. And the divine, perfect purpose of God is just through and through me, part and parcel. And I experience that thing. Of course, I'm not going to go back to another earth, but then people have stories about that, and, you know, Eden and whatnot. But I don't know, maybe next time we get it all perfectly handed down to us, created for us, maybe we're better. And that's the whole idea of thinking about this AI God. Is the AI God going to get it all right? And are we going to follow it without internecine competition and warfare and destruction, murder? Because, you know, who's going to get on board? Hey, follow my algorithms. You'll be fine. Everything's going to work out. Oh, do I have to have a digital passport and digital money and all that? Do I have to get vaccinated? You know, oh my God, freedom and democracy, whatever. You know, people are going to say, no. And my nanny is better than your nanny. My dictator is better than your dictator. My tradition is better than your tradition. On and on and on. Everybody gets on board. No, it's the Bilderbergs. They're trying to force us into this thing. So we're going to have competing cultures, nation states, belief systems till the last man, till the last person, woman, it, they, them, whatever your pronoun is. If you're the last one, then it all ends. I can't see any way around it, because I don't think people care that much to learn about these things. What is the purpose of God? What the hell is this Bouillante talking about? He's a goofball. Who cares? But I think about this stuff. My problem. I'm crazy. So you got your spiritual connection. He has a purpose. God, whatever the ineffable. Cannot say the name. So anyhow, I can think of a ton more reasons, because whenever you have faith, you're going to come up with reasons why your faith is the right faith. So you're going to use your rationality, even if you don't want to be a rationalist. And we're not going to stop thinking. You're not going to just be able to stop people from thinking unless you get into these dystopian Brave New Worlds and whatnot. And I don't think religious people want that. Some of the smartest, most thoughtful people I've ever met were religious or spiritual or whatever. I've met Buddhist monks and teachers. I've met Greek Orthodox presbyters and bishops, people like that. I've met, what is the thing? I forgot. One of these Catholic cliques. I had a good friend in that tradition who was brilliant. I mean, just a Renaissance person. I mean, amazing. And I've met indigenous people, atheists, it's all there. There's so much wisdom in science, in chemistry, in physics, in mathematics. There's so much there. You can go way back to the ancient world and start seeing how it evolved over time. And none of these things is a curse. It depends on how you use it. So if I'm going to be a fanatic and use my religious belief to compel me to murder everybody on the planet, that's plain pure evil and stupidity and ignorance in my book. This is how I feel about it. But physics and splitting the atom and so on doesn't necessarily mean the end of the world. It depends on how we use it. Do we have the wisdom to use it right? And so on. So what can the AI, what can the artificial intelligence or the general artificial intelligence that we create, because at the end of the day, we've become gods. I have become death, the destroyer of worlds. Well, we also create worlds, metaverse and whatnot, whether we like it or not. And are we going to be able to create this artificial intelligence that nudges us in a direction that's sustainable and healthy, and it makes us happy, and gives us all the kind of meaning and takes up the purpose of God? Are we going to accept it? I don't think so. I think we're going to resist it, but it probably will come, because you don't know, you're not conscious of necessarily the effect that social media has on you, or your religion or cultural background, or a book you read, or a friend that you have, or a clique that you're in. You're not necessarily aware of the influences these things have on you, and how they direct and inform and develop who you are, what you think, what you do, your culture. So yeah, culture is a big deal. So maybe there's a plurality and we have to just let each other be. But we have to take into account ecosystems and soil biology and life in the oceans and so on and so forth, just because we want to keep living. Not because we're this or that religion or from this or that nation state. Draw a border somewhere, your ranch in Montana, whatever. We do things like this here, boy. And I think most of us are kind of like, we kowtow to the status quo because we don't know any better. And we want to fit in. We want to signal. Again, back to the game theory. I think you can learn a lot from that. What's the purpose of it? Just like you can from the New Testament, and understanding what the New Testament fulfills in terms of the Old Testament. It's a freaking amazing story. It might indeed be the greatest story ever told, because so much has come from it and been inspired by it. So if Jordan Peterson says we're all in the West kind of cultural Christians in a sense, well, he has a point, because up until the 19th century or whatever, Ingersoll's my favorite atheist in the 19th century, we were informed by Christianity. And so without that institution, or these kinds of institutions or faiths, or whatever you want to, however you want to refer to it, to religion or whatever, would we have come up with some of the ideas that we came up with? Would there have been an age of wonder, an Isaac Newton? Would there have been the founding fathers of the United States? Would there have been an Enlightenment? Look at Spinoza, the rationalists, Leibniz, and Kant, all of them. Schopenhauer, come on, man. They're informed by these traditions. And so are we, but we're another step removed. And then during the Industrial Revolution, we became influenced by more and more machines, material things and wealth, because the whole concept of wealth shifted around quite a bit. And now there's nothing wrong with fiat currency, but now we have fiat currency and all kinds of derivatives and instruments. So we've become financialized. I don't think our economy is sustainable. Our economic theories and ideas, they have to shift and change to accommodate our understanding of things. And some of the wisdom that you can get from religion can help us with that. I'm a firm believer in that. But we have to look through our religion, through our science at the same time, simultaneously. One has to inform the other has to inform the other. It just has to blend together like that. It has to be in concert, because it's not going to work any other way. So all these people in the United States and Europe talking about the meaning crisis and rebel wisdom and all this stuff, they're a tiny little clique that's fascinated by the interface between meaning making and philosophy and religion and the high-tech world. So if you're going to be transhumanist or design a robot, what's it going to believe? What are the values? And alignment with what values, what culture, all that kind of stuff. These are things a lot of people are thinking really deeply about and working on and concerned with and so on. It's incredible. It's a really fantastic period to be alive, whether you're 15 or 2 or 30 or 40, whatever, like whatever. It's a great time to be alive because we have access to all of this information. We have ways we can learn how to absorb the information and do things with it that could be incredible. You know, it's all right there for us to do good with, but we have to take everything on board if we're going to be able to do it. If you're proud of being a secular humanist, atheist, globalist, cosmopolitan, rationalist, whatever, okay, fine. But you're going to have to look at the consequences of this way of life, what you think, what you do, on deeper and deeper levels if you're going to make it work for you. And the same is true for fanatical groups like ISIS or whatever. You're just not going to win by pretending that science is bad or technology is evil or demonic. You're not going to get anywhere like that. But as I've said before, circumstances could dictate that. We go back to the Stone Age. What was it Einstein said? The Third World War will be fought with sticks and stones. Yeah, if that's what you want. Anyway, God has a purpose, however you think of God. And it's deep and important to human beings. So if we're going to invent machines, which is what they are, artificial intelligence that's going to nudge us in the right direction, we're going to have to think about all this stuff. Also, this isn't just for the elites and the academics, because it impacts everybody. So whether you like it or not, you can't go to your Mormon community in Utah or Arizona and hide from this stuff. You can't. It's okay to be a Luddite in Pennsylvania and as much as possible stay away from all the nasty technology and live in a community like that. I think that's fine. You should have the freedom to do that. But the fact is, the African continent, Eurasia, Europe, North America, South America is permeated. We're covered the whole earth is covered in plastic and forever chemicals and e-waste and garbage that we produced in the last 170, 200 years. It's not going anywhere, people. So think about this stuff, and we'll talk more next time about the AI God. But, basically, I'm just asking you, take this all on board. Thank you for listening. Bulliam T, out.